Hello everyone and welcome back to the FRC Historian. Today I wanted to show you this project that I've been working on. I started around the end of 2018, finished it a few months after. However, what I wanted to do was look at just how efficient a second pick is in robotics. The question here comes from the idea I always had in the back of my head of, ever since 2005 with the introduction of a second pick in play, after the many years of having one robot and then the subsequent years with two, when you have a second pick, especially with a Serpentine Alliance selection like we do have in FRC, it does bring up the question of how effective that robot can play. And as we've seen, when you have a second pick, say you're the number one alliance, you pick one team and then another, that second pick normally falls one of a few roles. Those most effective being helping you score more points, like what happened a lot in 2015 with the inability to play defense. The second one being defense, where you have an alliance partner have their role be to stop the other alliance from scoring so your alliance can do a little bit better, as well as having an example where they can help your alliance score. And what I mean by this would be more specifically like in 2012, where on the Archimedes division, Team 4334 helped out their alliance in the number 2 alliance of Archimedes, which consisted of 1114 Zymbotics, 2056 OP Robotics, and the aforementioned 4334. 4334 would go across the field, pick up some basketballs, go over and give them to 1114 to help shoot, so they didn't have to worry as much about the defense scoring, as well as they would give the 3 balls to Zymbotics and Auton to help get more balls scored in Auton. The effectiveness of that also really showed when in the Einstein matches they were in, when they were going up against the eventual world finalists, they did have some problems against 987, 233, and 207, where when 4334 couldn't move, Zymbotics had to go out and get some more balls as well from the other side of the field, end up with having be shut down by defense and losing to that alliance who would go into the finals. That out of the way, let me talk a little bit more about this. What I did was I looked at every single year in FRC since 2005, the introduction of the match alliances. One exception would be 2001. That was when there were 4 robots playing on the field with 5-member alliances of the World Championship. Since there isn't as much data on that for every single competition of which ranked alliance won it, I want to start with 2005, since ever since then, we have had 3-member alliances going on since then. And I know that there were many times the World Championship before that, there were 3-member alliances, with one being a backup bot. Here, three members playing on the field. And what I did was, before I learned a little bit more about the API, so I looked at every single competition since 2005 and said, well, which numbered alliance won it? So for instance, at the number one in week 1 of 2005, it was a rank 1 alliance that won it, from what I was able to find. Then for the divisions, 1, 2, 2, and 2. What I did for here was trying to find the percentages of each of them. For instance, with as much data as I did have for 2005, that's what I was able to find. If you go more recent to a little bit more, you can see that by year you have different percentages for each of the years. And what you start to see from these different ones is more of a buildup of what percentages of which alliances win all the time. Because one of the other questions that came to mind when I was thinking about this was, in what years are second picks the most important? Why I'm saying second picks in reference to all of this is when I'm thinking about a second pick, I think of how important is that second pick, and as you go further down into the Serpentine, you have one less important pick in the first pick and one better in the second pick. So if you have a really good second pick, or of course there's always the opportunity of a dark horse where a team who is really good but doesn't get picked until later, like for instance 148 in the 2008 World Championship, where 1114 and 217 were able to pick them. Really good team who somehow wasn't picked all the way back. That'd be like the one exception. However, the more important the second pick is, you'll see more examples of, say, upsets where a rank 8 could win, where there's 19 of those in the history of FRC in these years that I've noticed. There's also the example of the rank 2 winning a lot. So if you look at all of it here, like where my mouse is, in total, in all of the competitions, 809 of the 1382 I've recorded have been won by the number 1 alliance. This, of course, is only looking at playoffs. If you want me to look at more of off-seasons as well, I'd be more than happy to do so. About 16 of the rank 2nd, 8.9 of the rank 3rd, 5.2 of the rank 4th, 5.07 of the rank 5th, 2.6 for the rank 6th, 1.8 for the rank 8th, and then 1.37 for the rank 9th, with 19 competitions being won by the rank 8 alliance. Now, if we want to look at the different levels and years of this, some of these start to make a little bit more sense, because before I made this, I started making some predictions. For instance, I had thought that in 2015 there would be a much higher concentration of teams winning by number one alliances winning. Why did I think that? This was more of an idea of if we look at the past of FRC, especially 2015, there was no defense. And what defense allows is not only makes it a lot of fun to watch as a viewer, but also influence a lot more strategy. For instance, you can shut down an alliance with defense. You can take two of the best robots at a competition. Say they both have swerve drivetrains, they're both high scorers and they're best scoring teams there. If you can shut them down with defense, regardless of their drivetrain, if you can stop them from scoring, you can have your alliance members shoot, try to score, and make it on. One of the good examples of this was at the Texas State Championship, where 1817's alliance was able to shut down the number 2 alliance with the Robonuts and go into the finals. Where if you're able to shut down the other alliance, you will be able to do some amazing things and move on to win your competition. Of course, this doesn't apply for all upsets. There are many competitions where, say, a rank 8 alliance beat rank 1 but then lost, or a team who lost in the finals. This is mainly prioritized with who won the event in total. If you ever want me to look back at that, I'd be more than happy to, but this is what I have for now. Some other examples. Basically, when I'm looking at this by year in, year out, you can start to see some trends. For instance, when you look at years which are more level-headed, a little bit more equal, let's look at 2019, for example, with only 50, with a lower rank than in total. In 2019, almost every single robot that played could place hatch panels everywhere except for the top 2 levels of the rocket, and could do cargo similarly in the cargo ship and possibly the first level of the rocket. It was much more of an equalizer as opposed to 2018 with a higher rank 1, with the example of not every team could do the scale. And of those, specifically week 1s and the like, let me show the example here. When you're at a week 1 in, say, 2018, there are a lot more ones here than others. The example being that if there's a lot of different alliances and only a few robots can do the scale and some can't, say only alliances 1 through 6 have scale capacity robots. Alliances 7 and 8 have no chance, and most likely Alliance 1 or 2 is going to win because they have the better scale bots. It's really hard. It was really hard in 2018. It was almost an impossibility to win if you didn't have a scale bot in the other alliance. It was possible. I did see it done on a very small number of occasions. Specifically at an off-season where an alliance was able to use power-ups and control both switches to do it. However, that's just an example there where it's incredibly hard to do. 2017, same thing. Almost every robot could do gears and climb. Not all shoot, but shoot wasn't as important in 2017 as it would become later in the year. So these games with more of equalizers, a little bit better. 2015, the one reason why that's so high, and I believe it's the highest one there, why I believe it's so high, is because in 2015, rank 1 would almost always be was the team with the highest average, which was almost always the best team there or the second best. They would pick either the best or the second best, had the best 2 teams there with the second pick. Very early in the year, in 2015, what would end up happening is, as you can see here from the 2015 page, you'd have the 2 best robots or the best scoring robots at that competition being rank 1, pick a second pick, and then they would win the competition from there. They would just go on to do the best they could and win. And a lot of times, despite the fact that rank 8 would have 2 identical first, second pick, almost identical quality, they wouldn't be good enough together to beat that rank 1. Because that rank 1 alliance would have the 2 best and then another team to help them out, with no possibility of the other alliance to use defense or another way to stop them, short of them falling over or making a mistake in placing cans. As opposed to other years, 2016, almost a lot of other years here as well, there was that example. Then when we look at 2008, the one with the most was 2012. Similar thing, shooting basketballs. Almost every robot could do it. Maybe not all of them could do it to the highest, but it was something that would be possible. Some ones that I do remember specifically were a 2014 one, Centerline District in the state of Michigan. That was an example of a team of an alliance being able to win that competition by having 3 rank 8 robots who were very in tune to each other. And then the biggest example I have of a rank 8 alliance working in perfect unity, I'll tell you right now, it was in 2014 in the Archimedes division, the 8th ranked alliance. Now I will tell you right now, that 8th ranked alliance did not win the competition, but they did do something. They were able to set the world high score in all the world. They scored the highest. Not even the World Championship Alliance could get a score quite like that. Who was this alliance? Well, they were able to upset the number 1 alliance with OP, and then go on to against the number 5 alliance, who would go on to win the division. However, here this alliance consisted of Team 51, the Wings of Fire, 2485, 1918, and 781. Where in quarters match 1, they scored an outstanding 390 points, the most anyone did in the elims in the regular season of 2014. Of course, they would go on to lose in the semifinals against that alliance, almost beating them, only 20 points off in the second match against the alliance who would go on to win. However, that's just an example of rank 8th alliance where that second pick did matter. If you haven't watched that video, I've done a video on that before. Please watch the match video if you haven't. It's amazing to watch, and they were able to come up with a strategy where it was 4 robots who maybe wouldn't have been picked up by the number 1 alliance. However, they teamed up together and went on to win in the quarterfinals, upsetting number 1 and then going on to give number 5 a run for their money. Other than that, other thing I did was look at down here as an example of the years. Okay, which numbers are, I'd say, almost like the most competitive as opposed to the least, where which years had the most higher ranking, which years had the most lower ranking, which years had the most upsets, which ones didn't. So my categorical ranking of best or worst per se would be the years with the most upsets would be towards the best if the second pick is used a lot more, where the worst is the second pick didn't matter as much. And that is what I used here for my examples. Thank you all for watching today. If you ever want me to go through here again, I'd be more than happy to. If you want me to get some more information for this, I'd be more than happy to as well. Especially going into this new year, I will be putting all of that data from 2020 into here, see how it pans out, and see how it compares to the last few years. Thank you all for watching. This has been the FRC Historian.